So one of the texts that was coming up in their reading curriculum was Farmer Will Allen and the Growing Table. It was a biography about a man named Will Allen who actually lives in Maryland, which is very exciting to the students because he's local. He was a semi-pro basketball player for a while, but then came back and created an urban garden in a community where he was living in basically a food desert, and the people around him did not have access to fresh, healthy food, but he had grown up as a child. His parents were farmers, so something that he knew about, so he created this urban garden and got the community involved, and basically started going around, got kind of famous, and started kind of evangelizing healthy eating and the need for healthy options for people that were living in food deserts and sustainable farming. And that was something that I decided to use as an ESOL lesson. We don't have an ESOL curriculum, and so I tend to pull lessons or pull ideas from what's going on in the content classroom. So that was one that I decided to pursue because I think that is a situation that a lot of our students are facing. A lot of them are in a food desert. Our school is kind of in a food desert. A lot of them, if they bring food for lunch, it tends to be bags of chips or something that you can pick up from 7-Eleven, not anything that's particularly healthy, and it's because there's not very much that's accessible to them.
He made the garden because he wanted to help kids who just ate greasy food.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he helped them by giving them fruits, vegetables, and other things that are healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a problem, and the problem, like Marjorie just said, was that they didn't have very good quality food. Like, they didn't have fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, right? So I'm going to write that on a red sentence strip because we're going to write problems on a red strip. So I'm going to say, they did not have, healthy, I like that word, healthy food. So here's our solution. He made a farm, right? So I'm going to put that over here under my solutions. Okay. Now I'm going to have you guys think about some more problems that he had after he started making his garden. He had other problems. You got some? Okay. So you're going to talk to your partner, and you're going to think about 2 problems that he had once he started building his garden. And we said that one of his character traits is that he's really creative and he's intelligent. So he thought of good ways to fix the problems, right? Or overcome the problems. So I want you to think about 2 problems that he had when he started making his garden, and then the solutions that he came up with for each of those problems. Okay? Does that make sense?
The problem was when he started doing the farm, he didn't have that much farm, so he tried finding farmers around the city to help him be a farmer. He tried finding his grandfather's.
I think it is really important when possible to use a student's first language, particularly if you have a group of students for whom they all have the same first language. Obviously, if you've got a lot of different first languages in the room, that it's going to be a little harder to do that, and it might be a little more one-on-one at times. But most of my students, in fact, all of my students are Spanish speakers. And so because of that, I do try to use Spanish in my lessons, but I try to do it strategically. When I introduce objectives with my students, I try to have them translated in Spanish. And part of the reason for that, the reason is twofold, maybe threefold. One reason is that I want, if the student knows some of the words in Spanish but not in English, I want them to have an easy, they already have this like schema to apply it to, and they'll learn it fairly easily. But the other reason is that I want my students to see me try and fail at speaking their language as much as possible. Maybe not fail as much as possible, but to be willing to fail as much as possible. I've noticed that it is really difficult for a lot of teachers to be willing to be vulnerable enough to take the big risk of speaking a student's language in front, that they don't know very well themselves, in front of a whole group of students who might laugh at them. But if we are not willing to take that risk, then how dare we ask students to do it? This is our objective.
We will say and write.
We will say and write. ¿Qué
Right.
significa? We will say and write. You want to read in Spanish, Lauren?
Diremos y escribiremos.
Oh, diremos y escribiremos. ¿Qué?
Los tipos de
Ayudantes.
de la
Comunidad. Comunidad. So, in English, otra vez, por favor.
We will say and
Write.
write the
Kinds. Kinds. ¿Qué significa kinds?
tipos
The kinds of community helpers. Community